are doing a special edition episode of 6 Feet Together. It's a special episode because one, we are interviewing two people, which I have never done, and two, it is a live Google Meet. So I'm meeting with these people live. They are waiting here very patiently, listening to all the wonderful questions that you guys have. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to interview them. We're going to hear what they say. And then at the end, you guys will have time to ask your questions. I did turn the chat off, so please wait until the end. I'll turn the chat on. If you guys have questions, you can ask them. It is with great pleasure that I get to introduce Nikki Churchill and Emily Longfellow. They are longtime friends of mine. We have swam together. We have worked together to become better athletes. And so I thought it would be awesome to have them both here. And I want to start with just an introduction. Maybe you guys could give me your name, where you went to school, where you're currently going to school, the event that you swam in college, and any other information that you want to disclose. So let's go ahead and start with Nikki. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Nikki Churchill. I went to Redlands High School for high school. I went to University of Santa Barbara for college, and now currently I'm getting my master's in public health at UCLA. The thing that I swam at UCSB was the 100, 200 breaststroke, and when it was offered, the 50 breaststroke.
All right, perfect answer. Thank you. Emily.
All right, my name is Emily Longfellow. I went to Redlands East Valley High School for high school. I committed to the University of Houston my freshman year of college and then transferred to the California Baptist University. For the rest of my undergrad, I majored in psychology, and I am now going back to CVU for my master's in forensic psychology, and I swam backstroke and IM events.
Perfect answers. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm really excited. One, it's great to see you. And two, I'm really excited that you guys get to come here and talk to my students. So I wanted to start, I'm going to have one question for each of you. And that way we'll leave some time open on the end for the questions that my students accumulate while we're discussing the answers to your questions. So Nikki, how did you deal with the pressure of collegiate swimming when you were expected to perform at a certain level? You weren't asked to perform, you were expected to perform at a certain level. How'd you deal with that pressure?
So freshman year, it was really hard to transition because I felt like I was the big fish in the little pond in Redlands where I was kind of the top. So I was really good at what I did. And then when I went to Santa Barbara, there were people that could beat me very easily. And I wouldn't get first, I wouldn't get second, I wouldn't get third, I'd get eighth. And that drove me crazy because I used to just be used to winning all the time. So with that, I had to make sure to change my mindset and focus on the things that I could control, because I couldn't control what the other people were doing, but I could control what I did. So I made sure to really look at what I was eating, also look at my technique and make sure that I was making improvements. And having those expectations kind of in the back of my head while I focus on the things that I know I can do really drove me to be able to get the best times that I was able to get in my larger meets, and get even work through the times where I wouldn't get the best times. There was always something that I could do to get make myself better. And through that, I was able to not only become a better swimmer, but also kind of a better person, because I realized that it's so good to focus on the process of things, that sometimes you'll learn more from the process of things than if you just got the time that you wanted. Mm-hmm. And it kind of works the same with school, is what I really noticed, because if you work hard and you learn the information and then you get a C, it shows you that you didn't actually learn everything you were supposed to. But if you didn't learn anything and then you got an A, what does that mean? That means almost nothing. You got the result that you wanted, but you didn't actually learn, so you don't know what to do with that process. It's very similar when it comes to sports. So when I would just work hard, and work on keeping my technique up in practice, then I would go to a meet and I would struggle and I wouldn't swim the best time. I would look at that. I would watch videos of me swimming and see, was I able to actually hold up my technique, or is there something else I need to work on? And then when the big meet came up, I was able to swim very well and score points for my school and just feel really fulfilled.
Mm-hmm. That's a great answer. I have two things that I thought of while you were talking there. My senior quote was, "Success without sacrifice is not a success at all." Which just basically means, if you're not really sacrificing something, time, effort, whatever it is that you're working towards, then you really don't feel that accomplished after, which is exactly what you were saying. And then the other thing is, I find it really interesting because I had the opposite situation. In high school, I was nobody. I was not the fastest swimmer on my team. I swam with some really amazing swimmers. And then I went to a D3 college and I was like the shining star at college. But the level of expectations on me jacked up. So when I was in high school, it was expected to get third. I was swimming with people who were going to Olympic trials at 17. And when I went to college, I was expected to get first on everything. And that stress really weighed me down. Even though we were D3, it was like, hey, you better perform because the team needs you. The team needs a leader. And I had the exact opposite experience that I think you did. But definitely we both felt the pressure in college there. So that was a great answer. Thank you, Nikki. Emily, my question for you is, what were some things that were unexpected in both school and in sports when you went to college?
Thinking on that answer, it kind of came to my attention that I don't remember a lot from middle school and high school, especially because now I know I'm talking to sixth graders. But something that I, especially on the school side, could not comprehend once I got to college was that your teachers are not going to give you time to do your homework in class. That is all accountable on you. Because I was like trying to think about it, and I was like, I don't think I did homework at home. I always got it done in class or got it done during lunch because I didn't want to deal with it later in the day. And that is not how it goes in college. The teacher will speak, and then when the teacher's done, you leave. Depending on your professor in your school, they might be more willing to like stay and talk to you after class or not, but sometimes like that's not the case. So it's a lot about accountability. You need to be accountable for your actions and to make sure that you get what you need to get done when it needs to get done. Because your teachers are not going to be there to remind you on a daily basis, like, hey, this assignment's due on Friday. Your parents aren't going to be there, most likely, to help you. And it's kind of the same with sports, too. At both Houston and CVU, the coaches would always be like, recovery, and kind of preach this recovery aspect on you and then not give you time to really do it during the hours of practice, because that's the time to practice. I don't know how many of you do sports outside of school, but I remember doing this outside of school, and coaches would be there to lead stretches at the beginning, and it was expected of you to like do the stretches. And that's not how it is in college. You show up, you get in the pool, you swim for 2 to 3 hours, and then you get out, and the coaches are like, peace. And it's up to you to get the recovery in that you need. So it's a lot about accountability and just taking the steps that you need to take for yourself and not relying on other people to kind of tell you how to do those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that too, because that makes me think of in college. I remember my teachers, I'd have 3 classes and they would give me, one class would give me 150 pages of reading to do in the next 2 days. And I like laughed the first time. I remember I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Nobody does 150 pages of reading in 2 days. And then we went back to class and there were people who had done the 150 pages of reading in 2 days and taken notes. And I was like, I better step it up here, because I thought, well, 2 hours of class, there shouldn't be more than 2 hours of work outside of class. And that's not the case. 2 hours of class could be 15 hours, 20 hours of work outside of class just to prepare for the next one. But like you said, your parents aren't there going, hey, Emily, you need to get this done. Hey, Nikki, make sure you do the reading. It's, hey, I better do this because when I go back to class, those professors are going to expect it to be done. Whereas in high school, you show up and they're like, all right, how many people did it? And, 3 people raise their hand and the teacher's like, okay, I'm going to give you guys some extra time. In college, it's like, that doesn't happen. They just move on without you and they don't really care if you pass or don't pass, not in an insensitive way, but in a way of they're there to do their job and you have to do your job. If you don't do your job as a student, then it really does hinder your performance. So let me ask you guys another question before we open it up. What is your greatest memory from college? What's your greatest memory from college? Now, it doesn't have to be sports, doesn't have to be school. I want that to be left up to you guys so you can give your own input. What's your greatest memory from college?
I have to think about that.
Yeah, shoot.
Okay, my greatest memory from college, I'll start it off. I was at my senior year, and we had our conference swim meet, and I got D3 NAIA swimmer of the meet, which means I scored the most points out of anybody in D3 and NAIA. And it wasn't just bittersweet because swimming had paid off, but it was bittersweet because I had worked through being on academic probation. There was a time where my grades were so bad that they actually said, hey, you know what? If you mess up again, we're not going to have you on this team. But by that time, I had figured out school. I was getting fantastic grades. I was working hard in the pool, and it seemed like at that last moment there in my senior year, all the stars aligned in school and swimming and my social life and everything were just dialed in. Now, it took me 3 years to get to that point because, you have to balance your social life and how much time you spend studying and how much time you spend practicing. But when that happened, that was like the best moment. I remember walking out onto the bulkhead and they handed me this award, and I was like, you know what? I've worked really hard for this and I've sacrificed a lot. So that's my own personal one. Did you guys think of something?
Yeah, I think I have one. I would probably say it was a little bit more recent. So in college, when you are a senior, you get to have something called a senior meet, and that's where you get to like swim in like a pretty colorful suit that's different than like everyone else's, and they're all focused on like you and your accomplishments and just having you just be really pumped up and feel good about yourself. And so at my senior meet, I was really nervous because my practices right before, were pretty terrible, like significantly bad. Like it was impressive how awful they were. And I was thinking like the senior meets where I'm supposed to like do well and like everyone's gonna be looking at me and there's this extra pressure. And then when I finally realized that yeah, everyone's looking at me and like all of this stuff is kind of like more about me, there wasn't actually an extra pressure. The only pressure that was there was coming from myself. So as soon as I decided I was just gonna go out there and swim as fast as I could in that moment, all of a sudden I wasn't nervous. And I'm the type of person that's nervous for every single event that I have to swim. But for once I was not nervous. So I was able to go out. I swam the 50 breaststroke and the relay, the 100 breaststroke, and then the 200 breaststroke. And I scored like best times out of the whole season in every single event that I swam. And I couldn't stop smiling. And at one point I even like cried because I was so happy that I was able to swim so well and in a dual meet of all things, because usually you're tired during dual meets because you still have hard practices beforehand. But I was able to still perform to a level where I wasn't wearing a tech suit, which is the suit that goes all the way down to your knees, but I was still able to swim like very fast. And so that got me really pumped up. And on top of that, like I was able to have my husband in the stands, but like both of my parents and my little brother, and that was just a big deal, like having my whole family there. And by that point I knew that I was going to like go to grad school, and so everything just felt like it was falling in place exactly like Daniel said, where it's like social life was great, family life was great, swimming was amazing, and school was even taken care of. I didn't have to worry about anything in that moment other than just having fun doing something that I loved.
Perfect answer. And I'm glad you referenced me. But these kids all know me as Mr. Hurst.
Oh, Mr. Hurst. My bad.
Emily, did you think of one?
He doesn't have a first name, guys. It's like kind of hard to be honest. If I can use two, can that work?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I would like to say that there was one, but unlike Mr. Hurst and Nikki, I didn't have like a moment where like everything seemed to fall in line, because that's just not how it is sometimes. But so for like the athletic sports side of things, when like the thing that I think I'm going to remember most is winning the 100 backstroke at my conference event my junior year. Because one, like again, that was my 15th year of swimming, and I've never won anything like that. Like I've won like little dual meets here and there, but like I've never even come close to like being like a winner at like anything like that. So that was awesome. But then it also just kind of showed that like all the work I had put in through that season really paid off, and it just kind of showed like how hard you're willing to fight for something. because that race, it was 100 backstroke, so 4 laps, and halfway through, I was ahead of people by like half a body length. But then your girl started dying, and I won by 0.02 seconds, which, like, I don't know if you guys have, like, played with the stopwatch before, but, like, getting 0.02 is, like, impossible.
Yeah.
So that small amount of time is virtually nothing, and to fight that hard, like, that last, like, 25 in order to beat the person next to me was something that I'll probably never forget, just because it was such a mental game at that point, because like my legs were dying, I was so tired, and I knew I was coming up to the finish, and I saw the girl to my left like catching up on me, and I was like, oh no. And like at that point I had to be like, okay, so we're fighting for it. And at that point I was like, heck yeah, that's worth fighting for. Like, I want a freaking gold medal. So I just fought the rest of the way and got the medal, which is amazing. And then on like kind of like the more social or school side of things. Oh, sorry. Do you have a question, Daniel?
Yeah, I was actually just going to comment on that. You know, that's legitimately just a metaphor for life. And I think that you guys are figuring that out. You know, talent is great and hard work is great, but at a certain point, you just have to have the will, because life just throws so many challenges at you, and you too, especially in grad school, know that there's challenge after challenge after challenge. And just when you think you have everything under control, you don't. And if you have that will to move on, then you continue to strive and move forward. And I was going to explain to the swimmers that 0.02, we're talking about growing your fingernails out, guys. Fingernail, that's how much she won by. Look at your fingernails. She won by a fingernail. Okay, that's what 0.02 is. Exactly. Very, very close. Now, can we hear your other story?
Other stories kind of more just like a general thing, but like Nikki said, you have a little senior meet where people are like, woohoo, seniors, you made it through this long. And I just remember, like, kind of opposite of Nikki, I didn't have care in the world. I did not care how I did that meet. I didn't care, because I think we're also swimming against a team that was like down to beat us. Like, I didn't care if they beat me. I didn't, like, at that point, it was about me and like how far I've come through this journey. And it was just so nice to see my teammates, my friends, my family, my boyfriend's family come out to watch me swim. Like, I had a friend who drove 5 hours to come see me and like give us all like little flowers and stuff. And it was just so nice to like kind of recognize in that moment that I have so many people behind me. Because let me tell you, my senior year kind of sucked with swimming because I was so burnt out by that point that I kind of started losing my love for it. But at that meet, I just was like, you know what, like, this is what I did this for. Like, the girls who I met on that team will be my bridesmaids one day. Like, the connections I made through swimming probably are what's going to carry me through like the rest of my life.
Yeah. And that's so selfless to realize, you know, that even though it's an individual sport, you stepped up, you made a commitment, and you're going to be there to pull through for your teammates. Especially, that's usually overlooked in the sport of swimming. Those were just fantastic answers, guys. I'm sure that some of my kids have questions. So let's see. If you have questions, what I want you to do is just unmute yourself and say question, because I'm not going to open my chat. So the first person that pops up on my 6 tiles right here, that's who's going to ask a question. And I heard somebody and I don't see them. It's like Nick. Yeah, Nick. What's your question, buddy?
So how far was the other girl from you?
Are you talking about in her last race?
Yes.
Fingernails. Fingernails. I told you, look at your fingernails. Yeah, Noah, go ahead.
Is college more like mental or physical? It's like, I mean by like, is it more like mentally draining or just
Both.
Both, absolutely.
It's most definitely.
It depends on the day.
question?
I heard it, but I don't see you yet.
I have a question.
Hunter.
Okay, what was your fastest 100 backstroke time?
54.66. That was the time I won with, and I did not beat that. So
That is pretty quick. Nikki, what's your fastest 100 breaststroke time?
I believe it was 102 flat.
Oh my goodness.
Those are quick times,
So me
guys.
and Nikki, yeah,
It's hard
I'm
for
so
me to
bad at
remember
breaststroke.
now, to be honest.
Those are quick times. They were both collegiate athletes, guys. You have to understand that a lot of people who compete in high school don't go on to compete in college, and these two were very, very quick in what they did. I see you with your hand up, and you're waiting patiently. I think it's Jimmy Cook. And then we'll go to you, all right, Lily?
Trying to figure out what I was gonna say again. All right, he can go, and I'll move.
Okay, Lily's going to go, and then we'll go Jimmy Cook. Lily Lynn.
How long have you been swimming?
Emily, you go first.
I believe, so I stopped swimming this February. That was my last race. And I believe it had been 15 or 16 years of swimming.
It's a long
Yeah,
time.
longer than I think all of you guys have been alive.
Yes.
So,
For,
it's a long time.
for me, it was 12 because I didn't start swimming until I was about 10 years old. And when I finished my last race, I was 22. So yeah, but I would love to keep swimming if the pools were open where I am, but they are not. So I run instead, and I don't like running against swimming.
I agree.
Jimmy, do you think your question, buddy?
Amen, sister.
Didn't come to you? All right. Anybody else? If you have a question, just unmute. Yeah, I heard you, but I don't see you. Hold on. Ryan Hankey.
Question.
Okay, let's go Ryan, and then we'll go Nick.
What inspired you to start swimming?
2008 Olympics.
That's a good question. I think for me, I wasn't quite inspired. I needed to learn how to swim. I had already at the time, I was doing, I think, 3 sports. So my older brother played tennis, so I was also playing tennis. And then I had done dance, so ballet and jazz, so I was doing that. And then when I needed to learn how to swim, I was like, hey, I'm actually like pretty good at this. So then I started swimming. And then eventually I fell in love with swimming. And that's when I decided to stop doing tennis and stop doing ballet and jazz and just do swimming, because I just had some kind of a love for the sport and like moving through the water.
Mm-hmm. Emily?
For me, I learned how to swim as a young child, and then in first grade, my swim teacher, my teacher became my swim coach because I think it was like a parent-teacher conference my mom was at, and my mom's like, dude, Emily's driving me insane at home. She needs something else to do. And my teacher was like, oh, well, I coach this team in the city. And my mom was like, okay, cool, she's going to do that. So throughout elementary school, I would do swim for 3 months out of the year and then kind of go back and forth on different sports. And I hated all the sports and I was terrible at the other sports. So in middle school, I decided to do swimming full-time.
Got it. Perfect answer. Nick, I see you reenacting all your strokes. Join a swim team.
No. How many swimming races have you been in?
I could answer this one. Yeah, too many to count. And you know what else? I guarantee between the 3 of us that we have won a ton of races, but I guarantee between the 3 of us that we've lost many, many more races.
Oh, God.
Yep.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Noah.
I found my question.
We'll go Noah and then Jimmy, and then we'll wrap it up.
Would you ever go back swimming, competitively?
Let's go with you, Emily, first. Nikki.
Okay, so that's kind of a loaded question. Like I kind of said before, I got really burnt out my last year. So I kind of had this hatred for swimming almost, and I swore to myself that I was going to take a year out of the pool. I was not going to touch water for 365 days. And I don't know if it's because of the pandemic or because the pressure's kind of gone because I'm not swimming for a scholarship or a team or anything, but I really do miss it now. And if pools were open, I would start swimming again, but I don't know competitively, just because with like school and a job, it's kind of hard to balance all of those. But I would definitely go back and swim just for like exercise.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm the same. I'm not sure if I do it competitively. I mean, it's very possible once I actually like have my job going, instead of just being in school, I will be like that 40-50-year-old that swims in those races against like other 40 and 50-year-olds, and like your times are nowhere near where they would be if you were in college, but you still like get to like win. and when you're older, you're more likely to win because less people want to swim at that point.
There you go.
So, yeah, and the older you get, also the less people that are there. So I know of a 98-year-old
Yep.
who was the top of his field, and his name was Bob. And I don't know if he's still alive. But
He is still alive. And he just does one race that no other 98-year-old will do. So he always wins because nobody else will do it.
Coach,
Probably the
didn't
mile
you
or
say,
Oh,
didn't you
sorry.
say like you guys are like having divisions and there's like one 80-year-old in that division?
Yeah, then you win it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's Bob Best. Man's a genius. Jimmy.
When you were like in swimming and you were competitive, like weeks before the race, did you have to go on like a strict diet?
That's a very good question. So I did a lot of trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
So one year, our assistant swim coach told us we had to just cut out sugar for the whole month. And that really didn't work because we were used to consuming a certain level of sugar. And when you were trying to cut it out entirely, you end up cutting out like a lot of like other things that you kind of need when you're swimming so much, because when you swim a lot, you burn a lot of calories, so you actually need a lot of calories. And so you need kind of to be able to have like your protein shake, which has some sugar in it. You need to be able to drink Gatorade to replenish your electrolytes, which also has sugar in it, and just a lot of other things. So that was like kind of not great. But I found that if you could be consistent with like the healthy diet throughout the whole year, then you wouldn't have to worry as much about like eating specific things before the big race. But it was important to eat a little bit less before the big race, because we would do something called a taper, which means our practices would go from like 2.5 or 2 hours long to like only an hour sometimes, which is a lot less like calorie burn that you get at that point. So it was more watching the portions of what you were eating. So you can't eat like 2 full plates of pasta anymore. You got to cut it down to 1 or like half a plate.
Good answer. Emily?
I would agree with what Nikki said. I never had a really good experience with like restricting certain foods and not and like just being like really weird with diets. It's like Nikki said, I always try to be super consistent. But like, not gonna lie to you, like I think I got my first sectional cut after eating like a Five Guys burger the night before.
Mm-hmm.
So not saying that like diet doesn't mean anything, but at the same time, like you don't need to be eating kale salads and green juices consistently in order to do well. There's a balance to things, so I try to keep that in mind. And then also, one thing that I like to do before racing was cut out caffeine. So like a week or two before like a big meet, I would not drink coffee, which was really hard for me because I'm addicted. So I would try not to have any coffee. That way, when the meet came and I would have coffee that morning or any kind of like pre-workout or whatever, it would affect me better because my body wasn't used to it as much.
Yeah.
What about those like caffeine-free energy drinks? Like,
No.
you can get those, right?
We don't need those. What's the point in that?
No, I'm not a big
Those will make you
energy
vomit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You swim and then you vomit immediately.
Yeah. They don't do good
Yeah.
things. All right, guys. Well, we're past 12:30. Thank you guys for staying in here until the interviewers were done. I appreciate you not leaving early. You guys are free to go. I'm going to have Nikki and Emily stay in here for a little bit to talk to me, but all the 6th graders in here, you guys, may go. We'll see you later. Thank you for being good listeners. Make sure you guys thank our guest talkers. See you guys.